Imagine waking up one morning to discover that a single court decision could determine the destiny of an entire trillion-dollar industry. The ongoing saga between Ripple Labs and the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, is not just a high-profile legal skirmish. It is a pivotal story that could redraw the boundaries for every cryptocurrency investor, exchange, entrepreneur, and innovator across the globe. What began as a courtroom battle has evolved into one of the most consequential regulatory showdowns in the history of digital finance. And just when it seemed the dust was settling, the latest twists have thrown the entire landscape into disarray. What exactly is at stake, and why should you, whether you hold digital assets or are simply curious about the technological future, care about these developments? Let us dive deeper into the heart of this legal drama that is shaking the very foundations of the cryptocurrency world. To truly grasp why this case is causing such ripples, pun intended, let us rewind to the origins of the conflict in December of the year 2020. Picture this. After years of explosive growth in the cryptocurrency sector, the SEC suddenly drops a bombshell lawsuit against Ripple Labs, one of the industry's most prominent blockchain firms. The agency accused Ripple of conducting an unregistered securities offering through the sale of XRP tokens, claiming the company raised more than $1.3 billion in total through transactions the SEC deemed illegal. The essence of the SEC's argument was straightforward. In their view, XRP was not a currency or a commodity, but a security, and therefore subject to strict regulatory oversight and registration requirements. Ripple, however, fired back with equal force. The company insisted that XRP was designed and functioned as a digital currency, akin to Bitcoin or Ether, and thus should not fall under securities laws. This legal standoff instantly froze Ripple's momentum. Overnight, XRP's value plummeted, exchanges delisted the token in droves, and millions of holders were left in limbo, anxiously watching as the fate of their investments and perhaps the entire crypto ecosystem hung in the balance. Over the years that followed, the drama only intensified. The lawsuit quickly became a high-stakes litmus test for the reach of the SEC and for the regulatory future of digital assets in the United States and beyond. Would the SEC be able to assert sweeping jurisdiction over cryptocurrencies, essentially regulating them like stocks and bonds? Or would Ripple's challenge pave the way for innovation, growth, and global competitiveness by keeping digital assets outside the traditional financial system's grip? The answer to these questions has implications far beyond one company's fortunes. It touches on the future of decentralized finance, cross-border payments, and the global movement of value in the digital age. In a landmark ruling, a federal judge issued a nuanced decision. XRP itself, as a token, was not a security, but Ripple's institutional sales of XRP had indeed violated securities laws. This ruling, while offering some clarity, left the waters muddy. On one hand, it was a partial victory for Ripple, since XRP's legal status for retail holders was now less ambiguous. On the other, it signaled that the SEC could still regulate certain transactions and sales, particularly those involving institutional investors. For the broader industry, this outcome was both reassuring and unsettling. It established a precedent that could be interpreted in multiple ways, depending on future court battles and regulatory guidance. Now let us fast forward to the present day. Nearly 5 years after the first lawsuit was filed, hopes for a clean resolution soared earlier this year when news broke that both Ripple and the SEC had signed a settlement agreement. For a brief moment, it appeared that closure was finally within reach. Specifically, Ripple signed the agreement on April the 23rd, and the SEC followed suit on May the 8th. Both parties then jointly filed motions to pause their appeals, seeking a 60-day suspension to hammer out the final details. Market watchers, legal analysts, and investors held their breath, anticipating that the finish line was finally in sight. But just as the legal marathon seemed to be winding down, a fresh procedural snag emerged. Judge Annalisa Torres, who has presided over the case since its inception, denied a critical motion, citing a technical oversight. Ripple and the SEC had failed to address a key legal requirement known as Rule 60. Both sides scrambled to correct the error, submitting a revised joint motion that the court ultimately approved. Yet, in a stunning reversal, Judge Torres denied their request for an indicative ruling, a necessary step to complete the settlement process. Attorney Bill Morgan, a keen observer who has tracked every twist and turn of this marathon case, described the latest developments as not favorable for either party. So here we stand, nearly half a decade since this legal battle began, and the endgame remains elusive. Ripple's chief legal officer, Stuart Alderati, insists that Ripple still retains strategic control. He emphasized that the company faces two distinct options: It can dismiss its appeal, challenging the judge's finding on historic institutional sales, or it can press forward, risking further years of litigation and uncertainty. Alderati reassured investors and stakeholders by stating, "Either way, XRP's legal status as not a security remains unchanged. In the meantime, it's business as usual." But is it really business as usual? The answer is far from simple, and the stakes could not be higher. Legal experts are deeply divided on what comes next. John Deaton, a well-known attorney and vocal advocate for the broader crypto community, sees approximately a 70% probability that the court will eventually approve a deal if one is reached. In contrast, other legal minds such as Fred Rispoli and Mark Fagel question the very basis of the SEC's strategy and warn that the agency may be overreaching, potentially weakening its own position in the long run. The uncertainty has profound implications not only for Ripple and its token, but for the entire digital asset industry. The case has already affected how exchanges list tokens, how startups fundraise, and how institutional investors approach the market. Even the mere possibility of a precedent-setting decision has sent shockwaves through boardrooms and trading floors worldwide. As a result, the crypto industry now finds itself at a crossroads. Will Ripple's next move open the floodgates for mainstream adoption, or will it set back the entire digital asset revolution by years, if not decades? So what exactly happens now that the ball is back in Ripple's court? The company stands at a pivotal crossroads, one that could reshape the trajectory of digital assets both inside the United States and around the world. If Ripple chooses to press on with its appeal, it faces the daunting prospect of additional years of legal wrangling, mounting court costs, and ongoing business uncertainty. This path is akin to running a marathon with no finish line in sight, testing not only the company's resources, but also the conviction of its leaders, employees, and investors. Conversely, if Ripple decides to settle, it might regain business certainty sooner, but at the possible cost of significant concessions. Concessions that could define the industry's legal boundaries for years, if not generations, to come. Attorney Bill Morgan put it succinctly, "The recent developments are not favorable for either side. Both are stuck in a high-stakes chess game, with each move scrutinized by regulators, investors, and innovators worldwide. The outcome of this legal battle could set a precedent for how tens of thousands of digital assets are classified, regulated, and traded across every major economy. The world is watching, not just the outcome, but the process itself." Some experts remain optimistic. John Deaton, for instance, estimates that there is a strong chance, nearly 70%, that Judge Torres would approve a deal, should both parties reach one. Meanwhile, industry analysts see an opportunity for even greater transformation. Eric Balchunas, a senior ETF strategist, predicts an 85% likelihood that an XRP-based exchange-traded fund will receive regulatory approval within the next year. Imagine the tidal wave of institutional capital that could flow into the market if such a fund is launched, or the possibility of Ripple itself going public through an initial public offering. These scenarios would not only reshape the company's future, but could also fundamentally alter the financial technology landscape by bringing blockchain innovation to Wall Street in a way never seen before. But make no mistake, the stakes of this case go well beyond Ripple or even XRP. At its core, this legal battle is about the rules that will govern the next era of global digital innovation. A decisive win for Ripple could embolden other blockchain projects to expand and innovate within the United States, sparking new waves of investment, job creation, and technological advancement. On the other hand, a victory for the SEC could force much of the crypto industry offshore, sending valuable jobs, talent, and capital to more welcoming jurisdictions in Europe, Asia, the Middle East, or even Africa. The outcome could determine whether the United States remains a leader in financial technology or cedes its position to rising competitors abroad. To put this in perspective, consider the history of financial regulation. In the early 20th century, the United States pioneered securities laws in response to the Great Depression, creating agencies like the SEC to protect investors and maintain fair markets. These laws, while essential for their time, were designed for a world of paper stock certificates, not for decentralized digital tokens that can be transferred worldwide in seconds. The Ripple case is the 21st century equivalent of those earlier regulatory battles, only now the stakes are global and the pace of innovation is exponentially faster. What practical lessons can viewers like you take from this high-stakes standoff? First, it is a powerful reminder that in fast-evolving sectors like crypto, legal clarity is just as valuable as technical innovation. For anyone investing in or working within financial technology, staying informed about regulatory changes is not optional. It is vital for success. Pay attention not only to what founders and marketers proclaim, but also to the latest court filings, regulatory press releases, and market reactions. The outcomes decided in courtrooms today will shape the opportunities and risks of tomorrow. Second, the Ripple saga underscores the reality that policy and law often lag behind technological progress by years, if not decades. For entrepreneurs, this means building flexibility and adaptability into business models, being prepared to pivot as the regulatory winds shift. For investors, it means maintaining a diversified approach, hedging bets, and not relying solely on any single asset or legal outcome. Those who position themselves to adapt quickly are the ones who will thrive when the rules of the game eventually become clear. Third, there is a silver lining to every regulatory battle. Each contentious court case, however frustrating, brings the world of digital assets one step closer to regulatory certainty. With every major legal decision, the industry moves closer to an environment where businesses can innovate with confidence, and investors can participate without fear of sudden regulatory crackdowns. The crypto world is still a frontier, unpredictable, exciting, and occasionally perilous. But with each court ruling, it becomes a little less wild and a little more mature. Looking ahead, what will Ripple actually do? As of this moment, the company has not dismissed its appeal, nor has it conclusively closed the door on a negotiated settlement. Ripple's chief legal officer, Stuart Alderati, summed up the company's position. The court gave us two options: either dismiss our appeal, challenging the finding on historic institutional sales, or press forward with the appeal. Either way, XRP's legal status as not a security remains unchanged. In the meantime, it is business as usual. Yet, it is worth noting that the legal saga has already transformed Ripple, both as a company and as a symbol for the broader industry. Insiders report that Ripple has quietly ramped up conversations with some of Wall Street's largest financial firms, exploring the potential for a future initial public offering and the launch of an XRP-based exchange-traded fund. These moves, if realized, could catapult Ripple from a courtroom battler to a Wall Street powerhouse almost overnight, solidifying its role as both a technology innovator and a major player in global finance. What about the broader regulatory environment? The SEC's aggressive approach to crypto oversight has prompted backlash not only from industry participants, but also from lawmakers and other regulatory bodies. In recent years, members of the United States Congress have introduced several bills aiming to clarify the status of digital assets, with some proposing the creation of a dedicated regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies. The Ripple case is often cited during congressional hearings as the prime example of why clearer legislation is needed. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle argue that relying solely on old securities laws risks stifling innovation and driving talent overseas. Furthermore, the global context cannot be ignored. In Europe, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, or MiCA, is already providing a clearer legal environment for digital asset companies. In Asia, countries like Singapore and Japan have established robust crypto licensing regimes, attracting significant investment and talent. The Middle East, particularly the United Arab Emirates, is rapidly positioning itself as a global crypto hub thanks to progressive regulations and government support. If the United States fails to adapt, it risks losing its competitive edge in one of the century's most transformative industries. Let us also consider the practical consequences for millions of ordinary investors. The legal uncertainty surrounding XRP has meant that many popular cryptocurrency exchanges delisted or restricted trading of the token, causing substantial losses and confusion for retail holders. Institutional investors, wary of regulatory risk, have largely stayed on the sidelines, waiting for decisive court rulings and regulatory guidance. Should a final resolution, either through settlement or court decision, provide the clarity the market craves, it could unlock pent-up demand and spark a new wave of adoption, not just for XRP, but for the entire crypto sector. So what can you do as a viewer in the face of such uncertainty? Here are some actionable insights. First, stay informed. Regulatory developments move quickly, and being among the first to understand new rules or rulings can give you a significant edge. Follow reputable news sources, track updates from the SEC and major crypto companies, and participate in online discussions to stay ahead of the curve. Second, practice risk management. The volatility and legal ambiguity of the crypto sector make it essential to diversify your investments. Avoid overexposure to any single token or company, and be prepared for sudden changes. Consider setting stop losses, regularly reviewing your portfolio, and consulting with financial or legal professionals if you are making significant investments. Third, think globally. The crypto market is not bound by national borders, and opportunities and risks can emerge anywhere. Keep an eye on regulatory trends in other regions, as these can provide clues about where innovation and capital may flow next. If the United States becomes less friendly to crypto, other countries may offer more attractive environments for both companies and investors. Finally, remember that every legal battle, however drawn out, is part of the maturation process for any revolutionary technology. Just as the internet faced years of uncertainty and regulatory battles before becoming the backbone of the global economy, so too will crypto and blockchain technology. Those who remain patient, informed, and adaptable stand to benefit the most as the dust settles and new opportunities emerge. In conclusion, the Ripple versus SEC saga is more than just a legal fight. It is a case study in how regulation, innovation, and ambition collide in the 21st century. The outcome will influence not only the future of one company or one digital asset, but the direction of the entire blockchain revolution. Whether Ripple chooses to settle or fight on, this moment will echo across global markets, shaping the rules and opportunities of the digital future for years to come. And here is an insider secret. Behind the scenes, Ripple is quietly laying the groundwork for a major leap forward. Conversations with some of Wall Street's biggest players are intensifying, with discussions of a future initial public offering and an XRP-based exchange-traded fund moving from rumor to reality. Should these plans materialize, Ripple could rapidly transform from a legal underdog to a dominant force in both technology and finance. If you want to stay ahead of these seismic industry shifts, be sure to subscribe to our channel and enable notifications. We will continue to provide deep dives into the forces shaping our economic and technological world. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you were in Ripple's shoes, would you settle or press on for a broader victory? Keep watching for more insights,